Hi, my name is James Orvis, and in today's video we're going to be looking at how to create that Moog bass sound, very progressive melodic techno kind of sound that's popularised by the likes of Stephan Bodzin amongst others. And just to give you a bit of context, we're just going to listen to a couple of snippets from a few tracks. I've chosen some quite old Stephan Bodzin ones from 2007 as well, just to kind of showcase that this sound's not something new. It's been around for quite a while now. And obviously we'll play just a little clip of Singularity as well, which everybody knows. So I'm just going to play these all two, and you can hear the bass sound in these as well. So I'm sorry I couldn't play too much of those. Obviously for YouTube reasons, we'll probably get the video taken down if we play too long of a clip. So I've only been able to play like maybe 5-6 seconds of those. So apologies for that. But hopefully that'll give you an understanding of the sound that we're kind of trying to achieve today. And the way this is going to work is I'm not going to just do a step-by-step tutorial on how to create a specific Bodzin sound or Moog sound. I'm going to go through the steps, but we're going to play around with stuff, and I'm going to give you different options to do with like the oscillators and the LFOs and the glide and things like that, and effects and processing as well. So you have a much better understanding of the sound, the fundamentals of it, and what you can do with it to kind of change it and warp it as well, rather than just giving you, like I said, the end result, a step-by-step process just to get one single sound. This should hopefully give you a broad overview of how to create it and also how to manipulate it as well. So we're going to use U-he Diva today. You can use any synth that you want, but I would recommend using one that kind of replicates a Moog. So you could use some of the Arturia stuff as well that replicates some of the Moogs. But we're just going to use U-he Diva because it's got these modules here which kind of make up that nice Moog sound, which usually comes up when you initialize the preset. So let's go ahead, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sort out the tuning of the oscillators as well and the relationship between them. Initially, you're going to get a kind of a nice Moogy sound anyway just from this setup, but we'll go ahead and start to change them. So let's open up the cutoff first. And apologies if my keyboard playing is off. I've got a microphone blocking the keyboard and the wires are going over the top of it, but we should be okay. So let's go ahead and just see if we can get a note out of it. And what we're going to do first off is we're going to leave these on saw actually. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a seventh. So you can either go up to a seventh like this, or you can go an octave higher. So that's probably starting to become a bit more recognisable now. That classic Bodzin style kind of octave tuning where he's got him at sevenths as well. Another thing you can do is you can actually bring in a third oscillator if you want and create like a subtone as well. So you can change the oscillators on these. It's like a triangle, but we're going to leave it at sawtooth for this example. And another thing that you can do as well is open up the noise oscillator. Now we've got the oscillators where we want them. I'm going to start to play around with the cutoff. So you've got a few options. You can leave the cutoff with no envelope like this and play around with the cutoff. I tend not to bring up the resonance too much because, as you notice there, when you bring up the resonance, you kind of lose some of the subtones. it's like it high passes the sound. So with Moogs, I usually keep the resonance all the way down or just a little bit up. And yeah, so that you can do that. You can leave it with no envelope, or we can add an envelope in to give each start of the note a bit of an opening like this. Just go and play around with this. Bring the sustain down. So you can give it a bit of a pluck sound at the beginning. That's another option that you've got there. And while we're on the filter as well, another option that I've heard in a lot of tracks by Stephan Bodzin and Marc Romboy and people like that is they like to use the LFO as well. So if you bring the LFO up, you can get this kind of stuff going on. So it's on quite a slow rate at the minute. So what we're going to go and do is we're going to maybe put it on a dot at 1/4 and maybe change this to a sine wave as well. Maybe speed it up a bit. So yeah, you've got that option. You can play around with the LFO. And obviously while you're making your track, I would recommend to play around with these modulations that we're affecting here, like the LFO opening, also the cutoff opening as well. And to kind of automate them during the track. Don't just kind of design the sound and then leave it as it is all the way through the track. Like part of getting this sound is the performance side of it as well. So if you've seen people like Stephan Bodzin play live with a Moog, you notice that it's always kind of modulating stuff using the MIDI controller and also on the actual Moog itself, like opening the filters, playing around with the LFO speeds and things like that. So that's another thing you can do actually. You can take the sync off. Let's see if we can do that. Take the sync off and then you can kind of do this. And I've heard that on tracks like Stephan Bodzin's Son and Wind, where you start to open up the LFO speed. So we're going to bring that back down actually and put that back on 1/8 dots for now. And I'll just reset this. And while we're talking about the LFOs, you can also stick it into triangle down as well and get this kind of thing going. And along with the glide, so the glide's really important to this sound. So there's something I've noticed which I've not done, which I should have done at the beginning. So we've actually got the mode set to poly, and that's why you heard two notes playing at once then. We need it in mono really. So let's play it now with a glide. I also feel like glide is another one of those parameters which you can actually play around with during the track as well. So you could leave it down for most of the notes and then maybe just one note kind of bring the glide right up. So you could do something like this. So you can really perform with that and kind of move the length of the glides around. Now going back to the oscillators, there's another little trick that you can employ as well. So this sounds very, very tuned basically, and we can go ahead and detune these a little bit to get a much warmer sound. So let's go ahead and do that. So yeah, we've kind of made it warmer by doing that. And you'll notice that the oscillator, the relationships between them, they're kind of phasing against each other. And that's why you get that really thick, warm sound. And another thing that I like to do, another option you can do, is to really heavily detune one of the oscillators like this. So yeah, that's something else you can do. So you can automate that detuning to happen. And for me, that is a big part of the sound, the relationship between the oscillators and the way they kind of move away from each other and bend and go out of tune and things like that. And there's another trick as well, which I really like. And I tend to do this when playing live with hardware synths. If you've got something like the Peak where you can easily press the octaves and switch through the octaves on the oscillators, you can get something like this. So you can kind of jump around the oscillators while the track's playing. So there's another thing that you could do, moving on to the mix section, we can use this feedback knob here to add a bit more distortion and grit into the sound. So if you're making a track that's a little bit heavier, you don't want that kind of soft moogy sound, you can add this in. So yeah, we'll put a little bit of that in as well. So next, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of fine tune the sound a little bit, and then we'll move on to the processing. So I'm just going to get it to kind of an area where I like it, where it's sitting nice. So we'll just make sure these detunings are set up nice, make sure we've got a little bit of the feedback in there, a bit of the noise, a bit of envelope as well. And make sure we've got this set up right. Leave that sustain all the way up. I'll add a bit of LFO back in as well. Maybe put it on the sine wave and just a touch of it. And see where we've got the glide. That's nice there. So yeah, now we've got the kind of basic sound set up. You could go ahead and use the onboard effects, but I like to use my own favourites. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And once we've set all this up, we'll come back and we'll have a little jam on here, and I'll try to play the keyboard with the microphone in front. And while I'm doing that, I'll use the mouse to kind of start to play around with some of these modulations. Obviously on hardware synth, it's a bit easier to do this because it's very hands-on. But I prefer to use the software synth and the mouse so you can see the mouse and exactly what I'm modulating instead of using like a MIDI controller. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I'll open this up a little bit while we set the effects up. So the first thing that I've got in this chain is to add a little bit more analog goodness in there. We've got this tape machine set up, both by Oscillators, and we've also got virtual channel set up as well. Yeah, that's about right. And they're just really to emulate as if we was recording this Moog onto a tape machine in a studio and then into an analog mixing desk. So it just helps add a little bit more warmth as well. And next we've got these different effects kind of settings here, and I find that these three effects, delay, reverb and chorus, just really work well with any kind of synth sound, but especially this one. And it's optional as well. You could just use maybe a delay on one track, and if you make another track with this kind of sound, you might just want to use the reverb or the chorus. Really depends. And with the delay, another thing I've noticed is in some tracks you wouldn't necessarily have it on the track as an insert effect or an insert send effect. You would have it on a send, and then every now and again you might send the beginning of the notes or just selective notes in the sequence to the return. So only some of the notes are getting delayed rather than a constant delay. So let's go ahead and start to add in the delay. See, I've just got this set up on a ping pong delay. We've got it on 1/8. Maybe I should put this to dots actually. Let's try that. Yeah, that's quite nice. Maybe this one, 1/4. That's quite nice. I liked the 8s though. We'll stick with that. You can also put it in spread as well if you wanted to not have the ping pong going on. Yeah, we'll go for the ping pong. So we've got that set up, and then we've also got a plate reverb as well. So I just brought up Valhalla Vintage Reverb and we stuck it in the dirty plate setting, and it sounds like this. Just to add a bit more density and depth to the sound, and a little bit more width as well. And next we've got a chorus, so I'll just set one of my favourites up, which is based on the Juno chorus. And instead of just inserting this on the channel with the dry and wet, you might have seen in previous tutorials that I tend to do this. So what we do is we just affect this part of the sound. So we're not chorusing the bass and sub frequencies as much. So now we've got that going on, let's make a little sequence. I've just put the click on, and we'll just draw something in, and then that'll free my hands up a little bit to play around with the modulations. So let's go ahead. Maybe we'll just do the same sequence that I was playing earlier. In fact, I'll try and record that in. Not the best playing skills, but we'll quantize that. So now we've dialed that MIDI sequence in, let's just have a quick play around with the synth parameters. It's going to be a little bit hard using a mouse instead of hands, because with hands you've got two and you can kind of modulate different parameters at the same time. But I'll give it a go, and maybe I'll just do one at a time and you can kind of get what that's doing. So let's go ahead, I'll press play and I'll just kind of try and jam along a little bit. yep, you kind of get the idea. Obviously, much better if you've got hands-on MIDI controller to record that in while you're making your track, because some of those parameters you kind of need to be playing around with them at the same time. So like you need to be opening and closing the filter while you're kind of changing the glide settings, or you could be playing around with the filter while you're kind of doing that weird detuning stuff. It just works a lot better when you kind of got two hands and you can control different parameters at the same time. So there we just went through how to make a progressive melodic techno kind of Stephan Bodzin bass. I hope that's been really helpful and useful, and I hope you found it useful that we actually went around it a different way rather than just a step-by-step process of how to get to an end point. Hopefully me showing you how to modulate and manipulate the sound as well will give you more creative ideas and scope when creating your own tracks too. I hope you found it helpful. Please let us know in the comments if you have. If I've missed anything off, so if there's any modulations which are really key to this sound and you feel like I've skimmed past it or I've completely missed out altogether, please let me know in the comments section below. I would love to check that out. My name is James Orvis, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.